So someone took a shot at our boy Trump today. Problem is, me and the team knew an event like this was going to happen before it did, because we watched the options chain and the derivatives chain 24/7, 365. You guys know I have 12 years in the Wall Street space experience. I have 4 years trading derivatives professionally. And as an expert in the space, I can tell you that every single thing that happens within the global economy is completely pre-planned. And I mean everything from fixed income to commodities, equities, foreign exchange markets, everything going on with the Fed. I mean, all the cards balance against one another. One thing happens in one country, it affects our country, et cetera, et cetera. So the way the stock market works, which none of you really understand, is that it moves in periods of accumulation and distribution. And during these periods, specific things have to happen with institutional volume in shares and the options chain in order for stocks to liquid test certain levels via high frequency trading algorithms. Now, the algorithms are what actually controls price action and price discovery. The quote unquote companies and firms of the world like BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard want you to think that it's institutional based and institutions are really controlling the market and moving it, when in reality it's just the algorithms liquid testing specific levels of supply or demand that haven't been touched yet. So with Donald Trump stock, used to be called DWAC, now it's called DJT. It's entering phase E of accumulation. And we know this because the general index, which is the S&P 500, is also entering phase E accumulation and is about to liquid test the 6,000 level before the election hits. In phase E accumulation, that is your markup phase. Your markup phase takes you basically past supply levels that were previously existent and blast through one level after another, like shelves of a house. And how have we gotten here? Well, the S&P currently is on the most false bull market ramp that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this entire move has been completely fraudulent in every single way. And the fact that it's even happening and existing just shows you how fraudulent the global market and the Fed, our central bank, actually is. And you have to remember, mainstream media is consistently shoving this narrative down your throat that the labor market has been consistently strong, when it's the complete opposite. Both the public and private sector have had massive layoffs in the last 6 months to a year. The unemployment rate is continuously moving up and up above that 4% target that the Fed is looking at, so they can start to cut rates. And that's why they've paused rates since September OPEX in 2023. On top of that, they keep telling you that inflation is coming down and we have a handle on it because the Fed has been pausing rates at this high level for the last 8-9 months. And that's also completely false. Inflation could not be any worse and it could not be any higher than it actually is. I mean, they're trying to get down to their 2% target. It's been stagnant at 3.1. PCE, CPI, and PPI are all continuously moving up, and maybe to expectations, but still moving up. And it's way, way worse than this picture that they're painting for you on television. If you go on anyone's, shopping cart from 5-6 years ago, the prices have literally risen by 200%. That's not 3%, okay? So, but that's what happens when you print $330 billion a month in excess liquidity and funnel it into the equity system because of a flu-like virus that everyone thought was going to be stopped by masks with giant holes on the side of them. Remember, every single period in time where any form of quantitative easing has come in, regardless if they've actually called it that or not, recently it was the BTFP, happens because banks are losing their liquidity and reserves and start to become insolvent. The only reason the market is up right now is because of aggressive call buying on the Mag 7 stocks, aggressive put writing on the indexes, which both lead to dealer delta hedging, which pushes the market up into each monthly OPEX, quarterly OPEX, leap OPEX levels. You have the VIX being shorted into absolute oblivion. A lot of people don't even understand what that is or how it works. But when you start printing money through quantitative easing like crazy and start altering the power of the US dollar, the VIX gets affected as well, and that affects supply and demand in our goods and services, imports and exports. On top of that, you have Powell and Yellen stop gapping every single liquidity issue that happens in every single regional bank across the board. And they're coming up with liquidity out of fucking absolutely nowhere, even though the BTFP expired on, I think, March 11th it was. discount window is still there, so firms can get overnight liquidity there for a better a better rate, but it's not as good as the BTFP's rate was. And you have this new untapped level of government spending that has been going on for the last year. They can spend money infinitely. They can issue new debt infinitely in government bills that are all going to be bought up by institutions. The thing that's going on right now, though, is that the government 6-month Treasury bill, which is your near-term maturity, those are T-bills, they have a higher rate than the repurchase market's rate. So that means that firms are diversifying by pulling their money out of money market mutual funds, out of that repo fund, in order to buy these bills because they're giving them a better return than if they were to just park their cash at the repo markets and park it with the Fed and get a return on that. All this not to mention that Biden has been tweeting about the NRA for the last 6 hours before this even happened and taking your guns away, which is an unbelievable coincidence, on top of the DTCC just a month ago saying that if an ex-president happened to be killed, that there might be some unexpected market hour closures on the horizon. Another coincidence. And remember, all this is being encircled by the fact that the bond market is being shorted into absolute dirt by hedge funds. It's an $880 billion short position that's been going on since COVID. This pushes bond prices down all the way, pushes bond yields up, which is why you see your 10 yield spiking the way it is. And on top of the fact that the Fed was raising interest rates aggressively 11 times in a row from 0 to 5.5, 5.25. And now they also have quantitative tightening going on since June 2022 to get some of this excess liquidity that they have in the market since they started such aggressive QE going on after COVID. All these things raise bond yields, and that's bad for you. It's bad for your mortgage rates, it's bad for your car loans, it's bad for bank loans, it's bad for your credit card payments. And all these things you would think would bring equities down, but it's not. It's actually doing the exact opposite because there is nowhere for all this excess liquidity to go. During COVID, commodity routes were shut down, imports and exports weren't as effective. During COVID, the federal funds rate was made zero, like I just told you guys, which also makes the bond market basically ineffective. If you're not getting a high return yields on your maturity bonds, why are you going to invest in fixed income? And that's one of the reasons why the bond market was shorted. So all this excess liquid is going into the equity market. That is why it's in phase Z and why it's being pushed up so aggressively into the election. On top of many other things, the S&P should not be where it is right now. There is no institutional buying demand coming in at these levels, okay? So when you see this going on, you know the general index is entering phase Z. All the subsectors of that index are also entering phase Z. Now, what phase Z, as I just told you guys, is your Marco phase. DJT, Trump stock, which used to be DWAC, because it's a smaller cap stock, it acts like a meme stock. Like it acts like a stock that has crazy short interest and it squeezes consistently. The problem is, if it doesn't squeeze, it does the exact opposite. So instead of accumulating and getting pushed up, it distributes and gets pushed down. Now, what will make you not be able to fucking sleep at night, and what I am making this video for in the first place, is that I should not be able to look at a chart or an options chain and see 4 million in premium coming in calls, 3 million in premium coming in puts being written on DJT, 10 million last week, and know exactly where the stock is going to go in the next 3 months based off that knowledge. So what you guys aren't understanding is that those things come in months before events happen. So if you see all this money coming in and then Trump gets fucking fake assassinated or whatever it is, they try to assassinate him and they fail and the stock runs, that was pre-planned too, okay? Which is an impossibility, okay? So I don't care who the fuck it was. You want to talk about deep state, you want to say it's Hillary or fucking Obama, whatever, the Clintons. Bottom line is every single thing that happens globally is factually pre-planned. And you can see it in the chart, you see it in the options chain, and we know before it happens. There's gonna be a lot of changes going on with me that you guys don't understand. You don't know what I've been working on the last 5 years, but it all has to do with how I've capitalized on knowing this information now and the 2 companies that I built around it. So if you have any questions, let me know. Just understand when you see these events happen that I've already seen them happen in the chain. I've already seen them happen on the tape. There's nothing that comes as a fucking surprise to me. We knew about this DJT call 4 or 5 weeks ago. We didn't know that it was going to be an assassination attempt that was going to send the thing fucking running, but we knew it was going to be an event. So if there's anything you want to take away from this, you guys have any questions, you let me know. I have multiple social media outlets in which I talk about this stuff because it can be incredibly confusing. I also have a incredibly successful educational server, which is ran by a lot of guys that I have from my Wall Street days back in the server as well. So if you need anything, let me know.